and welcome to Moriarty Monday. It's back, and every episode that passes, literally my respect and my almost appreciation of how much good work is being done by the studio on this one just keeps growing. And this week's episode was absolutely amazing, and I've got a lot of things to talk about. There's a lot of really good details going on, and I've got some cool things, and I get to show you guys one of the original videos that are still should hopefully be on the channel. I don't think I've deleted it, but there is a lot going on in this episode. Today's episode is a rare breed. Right, so our open actually opens with a setup. As always, we set up our story, we set up our crime, where we see a pair who have got an ill child on them. I put down sleet. Durham is slightly more up north, so it would be fair if it probably is sleeting, and we have got their breaths looking really cold. Regardless, the situation is the same. These two are begging a lord, or it turns out to be the Viscount, for him to call their doctor to treat their son. He sends them to the doctor in the village, which turns out that he's actually away, so they can't. So they beg him, can we see your doctor? Boy is going to die. But it turns out that the man is the gardener of this guy's estate, and his name is Burton. The Viscount threatens him. He says, you're causing me trouble, and if you keep causing me trouble, I'm going to... Essentially, it looks like he's going to fire the guy, so he threatens him with his job. Burton just kind of accepts it, and this is probably... I was really angry with Burton. Burton wasn't in my good books, to be fair. He kind of failed as a dad in this sense, but again, I don't know what he could have done differently. He kind of heeds the information. He kind of stops his wife begging the lord and the Viscount anymore. We get this cut where the guy just closes the door, and we just see them being left out in the cold. So we get this divide again. The anime is very good at creating a divide where obviously he's in the warmth. We get the nice warm colours. We've got the yellows and how bright it is in there. Where these two are shut out in the cold, and it's blue and it's cold. And it's, again, just harrowing in that divide which is going on. Where I did note that there is a lady in the credit scene. It's probably not her now that I look about it. But there is a lady in the credit scene who is picking up flowers which get kicked by presumably a lord. And she screams as they turn red around her. So it almost looked like she was reaching for something innocent that then turns red and dies. So it just felt like that fitted in, because there are a few little glimmers. Now, the more we watch the anime, the more the open scene makes more sense, because a lot of the characters and players from the episodes are actually in the open, which is quite clever. So did mention that. Now, as you guys know, I love history. History is my thing, and I've got a lot coming your way, which hopefully should help you guys understand this episode a little bit more, because I figured out what was going to happen straight off the bat when I saw a certain fruit, and I figured it out. And I'm going to take you down my reasoning and how this episode unfolded in such a splendid manner. If you weren't aware of a few things, then I'm going to shed some light on a few things just to show you how clever this anime is. First things first, let's talk about the steam train. I have approached my friend who I told you about, my professor, who is of the Industrial Revolution. His main area of expertise is steam trains, Titanic, anything Victorian essentially, but more the locomotive side of things. So I sent him a picture of the train, that steam train. I sent him a picture, and I'm going to put on a screen hopefully now what he sent me back. And yes, this anime, even though it's not 100% accurate, and I'm going to tell you exactly what he said in the response, but yes, the train we see, the bit on the front, not so much the coach, is accurate. And yes, it was a thing. And what I got here, essentially, was the locomotive on the front pulling the carriages is a Rover class, which is GWR. They were essentially the company who ran our railways back in the day. I even think I remember it being GWR. And it was a broad gauge loco. The tracks... I believe the tracks nowadays are wider than the tracks that would have been. So there's a few old abandoned railway lines near me, but they are broad gauge, and they've actually got wider tracks. I can't go into a great deal more detail. That's more his area of expertise. Again, you should definitely, if you are interested in more information down that route, obviously I don't mind putting you in contact. He is very, very informative in that sense. Again, hopefully you can see. But what he did say from his historian point of view is that the coach wasn't really a thing. So the locomotive is absolutely And yes, I did approach an expert to get a second opinion, just because to me it looked theoretically possible and it looked like it was accurate. We'll give it a 50-50 pass here, but fantastic on the level of detail that this anime is going to. We are in Durham, up north, a bit north from me, where William is arriving at Durham Station, where we find out that he's been hired as a math tutor at Durham University, which is a thing. And I'll probably put a picture up on the screen because I am so impressed at this. I'm just impressed at how much research has been done for this anime and the light novel. I'm guessing the light novel as well. And I've seen Black Butler and I've seen other animes which take place in the Victorian period, but none of them have impressed me to this level of detail. Like, there are some correct informations in Black Butler, and I guess if you guys really want me to, I can eventually go back and go through the Victorian aspects of that. There is a lot going on in this anime which is 100% accurate historically and medically. Bear in mind who you're talking to, guys. I am maybe Clockwork down to Noodles, but I also, as much as my interest is in Victorian era, my original thesis was early modern medicine. So I'm going to be able to help you guys coming up a bit later on. William asks for directions to Goatsbeck Manor, which turns out to be the manor that he's hired as well. As he's asking the fruit vendor, we see the wife of Burton is holding a lemon. This gave it away. I saw it right back at the start right here where I think Moriarty picks up on it, where she's holding a lemon looking really, really kind of out of it because obviously a child did die. The fruit vendor says that news spreads fast, and in the country, that is true. The more smaller towns, especially in the UK, where there's a lot of tiny little towns, news spreads very quickly. Everybody knows everyone. That is the problem with tiny little towns out in the countryside. The woman holding the lemon obviously overhears that he is a maths teacher and obviously a bigwig, where she kind of glares at him really, 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 really badly. The fruit vendor then tells him you should give her a bit of slack because the Viscount let her son die. Well, obviously we find out that information. The fact that she's holding a lemon as well. The lemon stood out to me immediately just because of the time period we're in. And lemons, yes, they are around. And obviously the nobles definitely have access to fruits like this. And we'll talk about it more in a minute when I've got some really cool information for you guys. But it just stood out to me immediately, and the fact that she's looking at the lemon, obviously is because her husband is a gardener of botanics. The lemon stuck out to me immediately, and I'm also wondering if it immediately stuck out to William as well. It must have been the first spark for William seeing the case unfolding before him. We also earlier got a shot of Durham Cathedral. Very, very good that you've done your research. I am very impressed, and I can definitely allow the anime to take a few slips here and there when it comes to locomotives. Let's cut now to Lewis, my boy. I have recently done a piece of artwork for this because I told you guys my soft spot is with Lewis, and it really is. I love Lewis to bits, so there is my artwork. Admire my boy. I love him. It turns out the brothers have purchased a residence which is close to the university, so it's only temporary, but it's nice to see the boys' backups up, and it's the first time that William has actually stayed there, where we get this such a cute line where he goes, "Any place where I can drink your tea is home." I love it. I love it so much. The bond between these guys is just great. And this anime is definitely probably one of my favourites for the season. William receives an invitation from the Viscount of Belfort, where it's a dinner invitation. Lewis gives him information saying that he must be the lord of the region. And of course, with news spreading as quick as it does out in the sticks, that news has probably spread to him. And because obviously he is a man of class, he is clearly a smart man and a man of status, he's been summoned essentially, because obviously the Viscount only cares about people of noble standings. Where we find out Albert is arriving tonight, so the three of them are going to accept the invitation. The Viscount of Belfort greets them all for dinner, where, bearing in mind that reputation is everything, we see his fake side. Obviously, we saw his true side at the start, and that's his true colours. But now we get to see the fake Belfort, the one that only cares about reputation, the one that he's only there to impress the nobles. Note the waiting staff in the corner, looking silent. They only speak if spoken to, so it is very bad press if your maids speak out to you. You can probably be fired. You notice that they're all looking at the floor. This is out of respect. That is their duty. The butler then tells the Viscount to be very careful with his drink. Well, I was so shocked. I was like, why is the butler speaking up to the Lord? And it turns out it's time for his medicine, so I guess we can give him a pass there. But as I said before, you don't speak unless you're spoken to. That is the rule. That's also the rule with children in the Victorian period as well. Children don't speak unless they are spoken to, even if they are children of the nobility. So some interesting information starting to come into these videos. I'm so glad I get to shower you guys with my knowledge on this. I really love this anime. I can't stop gushing about this anime. We find out that this guy has heart problems and he's taken a drug called quinine. Okay, this is where my medicine cap is on, guys. I already kind of knew where this anime was going quite quickly. So quinine is a drug that was correct. It was used for malaria. So it is a drug that you use for malaria, but you can't use it as a preventative because it's actually quite dangerous. We find out the Viscount is taking this quinine mixture, which is homemade, and he's using the quina in his conservatory to make it. I did have to quickly do a little bit of boop-de-boop-boop research because it's 80% correct, but not 100% correct. Quinine actually comes from the chincoa tree, so he probably has got a chincoa tree. Or, wait for it guys, grapefruit. It naturally produces quinine itself, and again, we find out later on that it also helps speed it up. So it helps induce what it's supposed to do. So how it kind of works is it causes your blood pressure to lower, which apparently helps with things like leg cramps as well. You can't get quinine anymore. It is now a banned substance. Probably because of the side effects. And that, obviously, once I already kind of knew that, I was like, I know where this anime is going. However, where it doesn't get a pass, that 20%, which is not quite accurate, there is no information on it ever being used for heart issues. We don't actually know what's causing this guy's heart issues. It could be anything. The guy's also slightly overweight and quite old, and he's living a good lifestyle. He could generally just be obese. That's the only bit it doesn't get a pass on. Apart from that, I am very impressed. And now I want to tell you a little bit more. So, Lewis obviously engages him and says, you must be really into your horticulture. Where, again, you guys, if you were following my Koi to Producer stuff, know that my mother indeed is into horticulture. And I have grown up around plants and my garden is overgrown right now of many different breeds. This is where it gets really good. The Viscount essentially says I've got a conservatory. Now, this is where I'm going to be correcting the anime. And it's just a little thing, but the term conservatory back in the Victorian period had a different word, and the word was an orangery. And we're going to use orangery for the simple fact that during the 17th and the 19th century, noblemen, especially people like the Viscount, would have an orangery where they would grow fruits, mainly oranges, so very rare fruits that obviously at this period of time, Britain during its conquest period where it was trade routes with places like India and China, where they would be dealing in these foreign fruits, these fruits which they couldn't get in the UK, things like lemons, things like oranges. So it was actually a bit of a status symbol, and this is going somewhere fun, guys. I'm so proud. If you were to come to London, my friends, and you went to Holland Park, and I'm about to do this, I've got some pictures of a different place, you can still go to the orangery. It's set up and you can still visit it, and there's some really nice orangeries over there. Most of the big estates and houses, if you're part of the National Trust or if you are part of the English Heritage, which are the history foundations of the UK who look after these places, and generally they do a lot of good work for conservation. An orangery is pretty much it comes with the territory. All of these places have an orangery. The Viscount invites the guys to his orangery. Now what I want to quickly talk about is Kew Gardens. If you guys remember, I originally started my YouTube channel as a travel channel, and I happen to have a video of Kew Gardens. And why do I say this, and why am I going to link it in the top picture? Because I've got pictures, and I'm going to share some pictures now of the orangery of Kew Gardens. And you can see hopefully you guys can see from my pictures how accurate the images you're seeing here and the team has done. The accuracy here. Most of these gardens, obviously, they're made out of like iron structures with some greenhouse glass. So they're quite warm inside during the winter, which is quite nice. It's just why perfect place to have a tea party. You can see pretty much from my pictures, and I'll put some pictures up from the anime in a minute, And you should be hopefully able to have a new appreciation for how amazing the art team is for getting their details and their accuracy correct, because they are pretty much identical. And you can see, I think there's a picture of me looking awful with my camera. My camera also fogged the hell up because of how hot it was inside. And it's important, if you are coming to the UK and you do decide to go to Kew Gardens and you've got a nice camera like mine, you need to give your camera about 5 minutes to actually settle and acclimatise, because you're going to get fog on your lens. I had fog on my lens for quite a while. I ended up taking most of the pictures in this section with my phone, because the phone was in my pocket, so it's warmer. Fantastic stuff. I can't recommend it enough. Definitely go see Kew Gardens when the world gets back to normal. It is worth your visit. It is an amazing place. Absolutely fantastic. Let's now cut to the anime versions, and hopefully you guys can now appreciate the links and see how amazing it really is. Where we get our title, the fact that there are many rare breeds of flower that are inside the orangery, because they need that warmer climate. These are all plants they would have got from trading with India, trading with China. The role of the gardener, because we do quickly see Burton tending to the flowers, and do note that William spots him and takes note of him as well. The role of the gardener, especially Burton, his role is a very skilled role. He is dealing with plants that not everybody gets to handle. Obviously, the nobles have these plants, but these plants need very specific care to look after them. So Burton's role is a very important one. And also, Burton himself is a very smart man to actually be able to do the role that he's doing and to understand all the information that there is to dealing with these very rare and foreign plants. Where William almost baits the Viscount, which is quite clever, where he goes, "It must take a lot of work tending to your flowers." Where he just baits him to go, "Yes, I have a gardener." Where he's like, "I have a fine gardener who takes care of everything." He's not a very considerate chap, but he's handy at gardening. It's just seeing again that even though he might have paid him a compliment, he uses him. He only sees him as a tool to look after his gardens. Where he goes, "Let's have a tea party here someday." Right, let's go and follow Burton to his house, where his wife is setting the table for free because she is grieving. And as much as Burton eventually does the right thing, Burton really bothers me, just in the fact that he scolds her for setting up the table for free, where their son, I guess, hasn't long recently probably been dead buried. The way he acts with her really annoys me, and he's not my favourite character for the episode. And we can see that the death has really affected her. Like, it's definitely probably gone to her sanity a bit, where she even says, "I dreamt of our son crying out due to hunger." Burton, getting a happy picture where he sees them all at the table, goes, "What good will carrying on this game of house do?" Essentially, he's angry. You can see Burton is angry, but he is accepted that he can't do anything. So he's just accepted that's it. It's okay. That's that kind of thing. As much as I want to be angry at Burton, we see two ways of handling grief here. We can see the type of person who would handle it, cry, maybe go off the rails a little bit, and then recover their sanity. But then we also see a man who is angry, a man who feels powerless, a man who is angry at more himself. But sadly, this is coming across to his wife, who really actually needs him at this point. It comes across as him being uncaring. Let's cut quickly to Durham University, where I can spew again about how amazing the lecture hall looks. The details are on par. You can visit some of these places in London, especially places like the Garret, where they have these set up. The Garret is mainly for medication and medicine, but it is the same thing. I know Moriarty is a maths teacher, but the setup is the same, where you'd have everybody would be elevated around looking down on the table, and obviously at that period of time for medicine, you would have a person there, or they cut open an autopsy, they could see onto what was going on. It's not quite removed from what we get nowadays of universities, where most of the time, especially my university, everything was raised up looking down on your tutor. So they used their idea of elevation, and that's come from the Victorian period and perhaps even earlier periods. But again, art team, history team, research, all doing their job. I absolutely love it. You've done amazing. You will also notice that the class is quite small. There's only a handful of men in this room, no women allowed. That also would be the case if dealing with anything medicine related. So I'm probably ashamed to the Victorian period because my thesis was on medicine. We hear the students remark at his age because, again, it wasn't common for tutors to be this young. Driving home how clever and how amazing William is. Let's now cut to Barton at the bar, demonstrating the second way of grieving. So I told you about the initial grieving where someone might be crying their eyes out and they kind of go through the aspects of despair and grief. This is another. Anger is a form of grieving where he is at the bar staring into his beer. And often enough, especially in the UK, or I don't know, maybe even in your countries, if you are upset, grieving, having a hard time, and they kind of link it to a manly thing to do. Again, I know women who do the same thing. People head to the bar to drown and forget their sorrows. He isn't at the bar just for the sake of the fact that he's at the bar. William decides to join him. He considers William just like the Viscount because he is essentially a noble, where he's like, oh, I know you're the gardener. That's not an easy task because you're dealing with a lot of rare breeds and you must have a very skilled job, which is what I said earlier. His job is no easy feat and he also deserves credit for having that role. And then he says what I was initially thinking was, you should put your skills to work at the Botanical Gardens in London. Kew Gardens, everybody. I have been there. Watch the video. It is not great. It was my very early work of recording. It's a proper video, so it's not like my audio work like this. It's an actual video. Go and check it out. Give it a like. I'm pretty sure it's got like 10 views or something. But you can obviously see the beginnings of the channel. Burton responds, being a gardener to the Viscount runs in the family. They basically live, they die there. That is the life that they lead. William says, to kind of change the atmosphere a bit, I heard about your son. Your wife's psychological trauma isn't fully healed. Should you not be at home by her side? Which is why I'm angry at him. I'm mainly angry at Burton because he isn't being there for his wife, who really does need him right now. She needs him more than he even is realizing. But he says, me being at home is no good because she hates the Viscount and she also hates me for doing nothing because I was powerless. He blames himself. So again, that sense of grief and the fact that he hates himself. He blames himself for his son's death because he couldn't do anything. He didn't stand up. He didn't do anything. But he even says, what could I have done? Well, William says, you weren't powerless. You actually chose to do nothing. You just didn't do anything, which is, he's not pulling any punches here, guys. He's not sugarcoating it. He's laying it flat. You didn't do anything, dude. You did nothing. Where Burton is being affected. We can see that he's affected differently, where he goes, what should I have done? We get kind of this little sequence and the red filter returns. So if you've been watching all my videos so far, you know what that red filter means. I don't need to go into it. Hopefully you guys are starting to notice things. That the red filter returns as he starts to realise what he can actually do for his wife. It's a murder, people. Murder! William says, by the way, you know, I've got another business alongside the maths thing. I'm also in the consultant business. Can I be of service to you? I love that. I love how he's manipulated the conversation to get him to think in that way, to then need his services. It's very clever. We also quickly see a flash of him at the library again doing some research, which is definitely on the medicine. We get that confirmation when he's with Albert and he says that I've finished my research, but I found a cure for some of the gloom. And this is when it gets to the main stage. We're now on the main stage, the tea party itself. We're also going to be now quickly taking a stop on the food tour. I promised you guys I'd do this. And I'm about to tell you about some of my favourite snacks because some of my favourite snacks are laid out on this table. Lewis and the Moriartys have brought a gift for the Viscount. It wasn't as commonplace as you'd think to do a gift. The fact that they have, it wouldn't be out of place, but it's also not a necessity. So I know some people, if you go around someone's house, it's kind of tradition that you bring wine or you bring a gift. Not quite the requirement at this period of time, but it does happen. Let's now take a stop. We're pulling into the station. We're now at the English bakery section. We're now going to talk about some English bakery snacks. Everything I'm about to mention is absolutely fantastic, and you should, if you ever come to the UK, try it because these are good. These are really, really yummy foods. Normally, people will tell you that the UK cuisine ain't great. These are good. Let's quickly take a stop here, and hopefully I'm highlighting it. Becca, do your job. Highlight the jam tarts. These here on the side are jam tarts. I think the reason why these look a little bit more fluffier is because they're pretty much homemade. You do get them in a shop where the jam is flat. It's factory made. You guys haven't lived until you've tried a homemade jam tart. And as a child, I can tell you, my parents would make jam tarts with me. Absolutely amazing. The best things ever. A warm jam tart is the best. Be careful, the jam gets really, really hot, so don't bite into it too quickly. You will burn yourself. Let's take a stop to the corner right. We've got Swiss roll. Swiss roll is absolutely amazing. I made it in cooking class. Generally, you can have people like it with like chocolate and with cream. I like the original, which they've got on the table. It is a sponge which is made really, really thin. They spread jam in it, and then it's an art to it. You roll it without it cracking. It's really difficult to make Swiss roll without it cracking. And as a kid, I was awful. I always had a crack or two in my actual sponge. It sucked. That is how you can mark a good Swiss roll. Let's take a quick cook to the back where we've got some cookies. I believe these are chocolate chip shortbread. And shortbread is absolutely amazing. If you're ever in the UK, take a stop at the supermarket Co-op and try their homemade chocolate chip shortbreads, because it's actually addictive and Moorish and amazing. And I don't normally recommend supermarket brands, but this is the one which is absolutely awesome. Now, we find out the gift is marmalade. I am not a fan of marmalade. It's normally, especially in the UK, it's similar to jam. It's generally more sweet. It's spread over toast in the morning. So in the UK, we sometimes have toast. I think that's similar to places like Japan where they have toast, but they don't have the marmalade aspect. Marmalade spread on toast, it's very sweet. The Viscount says, I can't figure out what fruit is in the marmalade. Generally, it's orange. Orange is technically the marmalade you would have. This isn't orange. This is what I already mentioned. I mentioned it to you guys already because essentially I was on it by this point. I already knew it was grapefruit. I am so happy. I'm so happy that this is all like linking up so smart. It's grapefruit. He's eating quinoa. Essentially, he's having a dosage already. And I'm going to explain why I think what happened at the end happened. And I know he gives a reason, but I think there's a bit more of a reason going on for what happened for his heart attack. We'll get there in a minute, though. And it turns out that Viscount never knew that grapefruit was anything more than a decorative plant. I think people were drinking it at that period of time. I'm not quite sure why he wouldn't have known it was a fruit. We can give it a little bit of a pass. Quinoa is in grapefruit. It occurs naturally. So it's not like from the bark of a tree. It's probably a lot less. There's probably less of it in there. But it is in grapefruit as well as that compound we're going to mention a bit later on. I am not pronouncing that compound. I will get it wrong. It's just really ironic that he doesn't realise that what he's taking is in this fruit that he's just seen as a decorative. Here it comes, guys. I knew it. The music starts to change. I was like, oh, here it comes. Here comes the big main display. Serving the juice is Burton and his wife. And this scene is so good. This scene is absolutely amazing. And I'm sorry if I get so hyped up. Just how good and clever this anime is. We get close-ups now of her cutting these fruits. And it's just, we get these knives. To get a lot of these knives. And the music starts to go eerily out of key to show that something isn't quite right here. And we get these interjections where the Viscount is looking really happy and he's eating and he's very greedy. And we get this like kind of just how greedy this man is. The wife cuts this grapefruit and the sound of the knife hitting the wood is the only thing you get. It's very, very loud. The music stops as her patience snaps. It's almost like this thwack where the knife hits the wood is where her patience just gives in. This is it. She's given up. The red filter comes back and the wife just snaps. She runs in to attack the Viscount with a knife where Burton tries to stop her. All of this panic, all of this adrenaline going through a man who has heart problems causes him to eventually have a heart issue on the floor where William's like, here, quickly take the quinine. Burton gives him some grapefruit. Bear in mind, he's probably double dosing now on quinine, which is what I initially was like, he shouldn't be drinking. If he's going to take the medication, he shouldn't be drinking this stuff. Burton is fired on the spot and he says, I'm going to call the police for your wife. The two are sent away. Quick food stop again before we get to the good part. This is treacle tart on the table. Come to the UK, but only have a bit of treacle tart. It is sickly. It is really sickly, but it is so, so good. And it's really good homemade. Everything I've mentioned food-wise is so good. You need to try it. Absolutely amazing food. Great to see it on the table as well. And the Viscount gets really, really angry. The butler again telling him to calm down. Where William is like, perhaps you should settle this amicably with them. His eyes start to go blurry. And I was like, oh, this is clever. This is clever. The red filter comes. And yes, you guys know this video now. You should know this. They colour pop. Their colour popping comes back. The marmalade is this rich red and everything else is faded out behind because we are drawing attention to the fact that the marmalade, it looks like blood, yes, it's red, and the fact that it's also got quinine in it. It's also leading this man to have essentially an overdose is what happens, where he says, "You're not aware, are you? Grapefruit contains a compound that speeds up the quinine's functions, which causes blood pressure to drop very sharply. Quinine does this naturally anyway. I mentioned it before. People use it for leg cramps. It causes it will cause blood pressure to lower out, and obviously cramps vanish at that point. The fact that this man has had quinine in the medical form, he's had it in the marmalade, he's had it in the drink, he's essentially experiencing an overdose of the stuff, where he says, call a doctor. And William's like, wasn't there two people who asked that very same question of you once? And I'm like, burn! What a sick burn. I'm sorry, that is a sick burn at that point. Where he's like, do you remember what answer you gave him? And then he's like, this was all set up from the start, wasn't it? Oh, it's so good. And the main theme starts to play. It just feels so good to see just dessert served to this man, where he's like, this was all Burton's request. Punishment has been delivered to you by James Moriarty, crime consultant. He misses out the William, though. I don't know why he's kind of skipped on the William bit there. And yes, guys, it is rest in peace, Viscount. You are gone. I did not like you. I am not shedding a tear. Outside, Burton finally mans up and confronts Michelle, his wife. Finally doing the right thing there. We cut to the near to end sequence where we've got the steam train again. My friend would probably like, yes, no. Where Albert has arranged work for Burton at the Queen Mary Gardens. Finally, a role that definitely deserves him. And first time they kind of look relieved, almost like a burden's being lifted on their shoulders, where William's like, you carried this out on your own. I merely helped you. So this is doubling down on what I said earlier, is he doesn't get his hands dirty. He doesn't actually do anything directly. He's always indirectly involved. He's always setting up the scene. He is the puppet master, but never the man doing the work of the murdering. And we can see that the two have got closer, where he even says they now share a burden of the crime, where their bond is now no longer easily broken. And we get that flashback where the brothers are in the fire and they made that bond where they're in the fire and they've come out sharing the crime of the fire together, where they are now brothers completely. You can't separate the guys. Their bond is like unbreakable. At the end, next week's episode will be the dancer on the bridge. We see Sherlock. I am so excited, guys. There is a picture of Sherlock just sitting overlooking everything. He's finally making his entrance and I cannot wait. Next week is definitely... I just love Mondays. Mondays is now my new favourite day. Monday and Tuesday. I can't tell you how much fun I had this episode. This episode was great on historical terms. It was great medically. It was great setup again. Music was good. The details was good. The plot, the crime, the way it was all kind of wrapped up and the guy ended up getting just desserts. Really, really cleverly done. And I hope you guys are just having as much fun as I am, because I am literally overjoyed to be breaking this anime down. Please as well, do me the biggest favour if you've even learnt just one little fact today. Give me a subscribe, please, because you are going to be helping a channel grow and get bigger, and it will allow me to do more things like this. I'll pick up some more historical animes, go into them, break them down. But please, I need you guys to help a girl out here. Give me a subscribe, give the video a like, and I will again quickly double down on my schedule. So if you are finding me, you are new to the channel. Mondays, we have Moriarty, where you already know that. We discussed this amazing anime that is Moriarty the Patriot. Monday, Tuesday, Golden Kamui, Season 3. Yes, Season 3 is here, if you are not aware. Come and join us for some fun and also some feels. The anime which keeps doing the 360s of making us cry and making us laugh. Wednesday morning would be Ikebukuro Westgate Park, but check out the latest video just to see the status on that one. I don't know if I'm releasing this week, so go check that out. Noblesse takes place on Thursdays, and Friday is Journey of Elena. A really fun-packed schedule, guys, and I'm having so much fun with all of them. They're all different. Always Moriarty, which is the one which takes so much effort to edit. It takes ages. Normally, an average video, 4 to 5 hours. Moriarty can sometimes have me up to like 3 a.m, 7 hours edit kind of thing, because of how much work I put into the video. I had so much fun. This episode was absolutely amazing. Please make sure you are subscribed. You'll be doing me the world of favours. I want to do more things like that, but I need your help to make that happen. So I hope you guys are having a good day. Hopefully you've learnt some awesome stuff and you might go try these amazing snacks. They are absolutely bang on. Love these foods. These foods are some of my favourites. Absolutely fantastic. Recommend them fully. Have a good day, guys. And I will see you guys next week on Monday. Goodbye. Bye-bye.